Kia ora, here's my November wrap up. So, first, we're going to start off with the clickbait manga that I read. So, I read the first omnibus of One Piece. I have read One Piece up to Big Mum, but I thought I'd do my boy Oda a service and start from the beginning and read it physically. And my notes are I liked the beginning of the series. It was better than I remember it being, but the main thing is reading it in a paperback is way more pleasurable, way better than reading it online. So, yeah, I definitely prefer One Piece physically. It's a much better experience, and I'm looking forward to reading more of it. The theme of this month is definitely manga, so I read Flying Witch Volume 1, Flying Witch Volume 2, Flying Witch Volume 3, Flying Witch Volume 4, Flying Witch Volume 5, Flying Witch Volume 6, and Flying Witch Volume 7. So Flying Witch was a bit of a reread. I decided that it was about time that I reread the series. And it's really, really good, really underrated. The anime adaptation is fine, but the manga is much, much better. It releases at kind of a snail's pace. So when I catch up to Volume 12, which is all that's released here, I'm going to be waiting around for a while before the next volume comes out. But it starts off very slice of life, with sort of like some witchy magical stuff going on. Very comedic, not like slapstick comedy, I don't really think Japan do slapstick comedy, but it's quite It's got a lot of, most chapters have sort of like a punchline that they're kind of leading towards, but then it doesn't really get like shonen power systemy, but the world building gets a lot more fleshed out, and you begin to see the connections between the different characters and the different magic that the characters use, and the different side characters, both magical and non-magical. It's really, really good, and it gets better. So I would say each volume is better than the last one. So I gave all of these 4 stars, but near like volume 7, and I'm currently on volume 8, they're definitely getting towards the top of that kind of tier rating. And then the last thing that I read this month that I finished was Sandman Volume 3, Dream Country. Dream Country. This was good. I only had one story to finish of this, and then the end was sort of a manuscript. It was good. I'm going to continue it, but I'm probably just going to continue reading the library copies that we have. So, yeah. And then this is sort of my wish list for next month. So I'm probably going to continue reading Flying Witch, but I bought the second 3-in-1 of One Piece, so I'm going to read that. I've picked back up Borges, and I'm trying to finish this tome. There are a bit of notes at the end that I'm probably not going to read, but I'm over halfway through. I just kind of picked it back up in the past couple of days, and I probably won't finish it this month, but it is something that I am working towards. And then the last thing that I kind of sort of want to finish or read this month is the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which I picked up a copy. This is the British Museum edition, so it's a different translation than the Penguin translation that you typically can buy in the store, and it's a different translation from the there's like a late 19th century translation that the most common one that you come across that's not Penguin published. I'm trying to remember the name of the translator. It doesn't matter. But this is the one I'm reading, and I don't quite know what I was expecting for the ancient book of the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's essentially just a bunch of spells that the person going into the afterlife is meant to invoke in order to restore their functions and grant them magic and prevent their magic being taken away and do all sorts of stuff. There's a variety of different things, but the reason why I picked this book up was one, curiosity, and two, I was listening to a podcast where it was a translator from English to Italian of Finnegan's Wake, was talking about how he reckoned the Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, was sort of a key text in understanding Finnegan's Wake. And I kind of see that, but it's also, it's interesting. I'm starting to see the connections between Finnegan's Wake and the Book of the Dead, but we'll see. This is not the translation that James Joyce would have used when he was constructing Finnegan's Wake. So that was one reason why I wanted to go for an older translation. But I settled on this one because it's got really, really nice colored images, and the translation is very readable. So it doesn't have that awkwardness of like old-timey translation prose, which tries to be in like an elevated style, which might not necessarily be reflective of the text's style in the original. But this has nice colored pages, very, very good, very, very good. I was about to say illustrations. I guess they are illustrations, but very good, very good illustrations of the text, and you can see some of the symbolism in the imagery. There's a lot of depth to this, to the pieces of papyrus, in terms of the symbolism of what the characters are doing, that gives the text another layer. And there's a text description beside each of the images of the papyrus scrolls that explains what's happening in the image. But anyway, so that's the Egyptian Book of the Dead, sort of leaning into the sort of more kind of esoteric, but as well as Borges. I mean, Borges is just an all-time classic, and this edition contains ficciones, or in this translation translated as fictions, which is like pound for pound just some of the best short stories, period. Like, they're really ficciones, or fictions, and this is just like every story is an absolute like game changer. And you can see why Borges is so beloved these days when you read some of his stories. Like, he will, in the space of like 3 or 6 pages, will absolutely like change how you perceive literature. And that's not really an exaggeration. I mean, in some senses, he's just really condensed at bringing very complex philosophical and theological and metaphysical ideas. He does blend the sort of more kind of theological, kind of spiritual aspect of some of his stories with a more kind of philosophical, kind of metaphysical idea. But he varies quite wildly in what kind of subject matter he's covering, Borges, but generally it's trying to explore some sort of mind-expanding idea. Some of them are more run-of-the-mill kind of fictions, where like run-of-the-mill stories where you can sort of see how things work, and then some take more of a magical realism slant. He is considered one of the South American magical realists, but he's very, very different from Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Completely different style of magical realism. And some Borges stories are less magical realism and more just kind of toying with some sort of aspect of theology or some sort of philosophical idea than presenting a straight magical story. So yeah, that's Borges. Maybe I might be hijacked by the algorithm powers that be and end up talking about One Piece and be another book to One Piece YouTuber or booktuber. Except I was already talking about manga. My earliest videos were about manga, so it's actually more like manga to books to manga. But we'll see. I don't really have too many novel thoughts about the first volume of One Piece, but we'll see if I get to the end of East Blue, if I have anything to really talk about, or if the comments pop off and then we just go that direction. So yeah. Anyway, that's me signing off. See you in the next video. Cheers.